You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast with your dating coach, Trip, from tripadvice.com. Do you struggle with getting girls to like you? Well, you're going to learn step-by-step how to talk to girls to create deep connections and meet the woman of your dreams. Here's your host, me, Trip. Hello and welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. This is your host, Trip Kramer, from tripadvice.com. And just a few updates here. Just want to let you know that I'm starting some new types of videos on my YouTube channel. Don't know if you check out my YouTube channel at all. I know that a lot of people who listen to podcasts don't necessarily go and watch YouTube videos and vice versa. But if you are into YouTube videos or have seen any of my videos on my channel, I'm doing something new. I'm doing vlogs and still giving dating advice and still helping you out and trying to help you find the woman of your dreams, but also doing it in a different kind of stylistic way and kind of showing what I'm up to, in my life, but at the same time, giving you lessons and things that I'm learning. And I'm really proud of them. I think they're really cool, and I think they're really fun and informative for you to watch. So check that out. Go over to the Trip Advice channel on YouTube. That's youtube.com/tripadvice. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about some topical things, but if you're listening to this, years down the line, this is still important for you to know. Now, you might have heard a name come up in the media recently, maybe a guy whose name is Harvey Weinstein. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick lowdown of what's going on and who he is if you're not paying attention to the news. And if you are, don't worry, I'm not going to get into too many details to bore you of something that you already know, because I know a lot of people are talking about this, and I feel like I need to speak up on it and say something in regards to what's going on here, because this is about people, human beings, relationships, and the way that that women are treated and men are treated and everything in between. So, who is Harvey Weinstein, and is what he's doing wrong? So here's the kind of real quick synopsis. Harvey Weinstein is a film producer in Hollywood, California. He's been producing movies since the 80s. He's produced many famous movies, ones that have been Oscar-winning, Oscar-nominated, things that have won awards at festivals, things like that. And he's been starting multiple different production companies throughout the course of his career. He even sold a company that's very famous called Miramax. Maybe you've seen that come on screen before, the movies that you've watched. And for a long time, I loved watching any movie that came from Miramax or from the Weinstein Company. That was the second company that he formed with his brother. And I just loved it. I mean, it was always really good films. He always really brought independent films into the light. And honestly, it was always good taste. It really was. I got excited to see the Miramax logo, the Weinstein logo come up, because I always knew it was probably going to be some sort of good movie. And now to hear this, what's going on in the news, and I'll tell you what he's been doing. He's been sexually assaulting women for what seems like the past 20 to 30 years of his career. And it's so sad to hear that for multiple reasons. One, because hopefully this shouldn't go without saying, sexually assaulting women is wrong. But also, I'm sad on another level, because I really liked his movies. And now I look at them and I feel a little jaded by it, and I don't think he's ever going to be making movies again. So many women, every day, another woman is coming out saying how Harvey Weinstein did something terrible to a woman. And these innocent actresses have been taken advantage of Harvey Weinstein because he has been groping them or flashing them or doing inappropriate sexual activity in front of them without their consent. And so this is what sexual assault is all about, right? And, we might not hear about that as much as maybe things like rape. We hear about those things, but guys have to understand that doing anything sexually inappropriate in front of a woman without any consent or groping her or touching her in any way, shape, or form, even if you're a producer or not a producer, is inherently wrong. And you should not be doing those things. And, I don't want to sit here on soapbox or sound like a parent, but I just don't think many men understand that you're not supposed to do this, and that it is completely wrong to be going and doing anything sexually inappropriate with any woman. And Harvey Weinstein has done that. And he's a big Hollywood producer, and he has taken advantage of his power by taking advantage of women. And so that is kind of the background of the story of what he's been doing for the past 30 years. And so, I say in the title of this episode, is he wrong? What is he doing? Yes, he is 100% wrong. In fact, it's interesting because I had a conversation with my brother the other day. And because every day there's just a new article coming out about everything's getting revoked, right? So he was in the Academy, which means that he was able to vote on the best movies of the year for the Academy Awards. He's now out of that. He's probably going to be put to trial. Something's going to happen. Maybe he's going to get sued. He might even potentially have jail time. I don't know for sure, but it just seems like everything is going that way. And so I was talking to my brother, and he said, do you at all kind of feel bad for him? And it was an interesting discussion, because you see this person just getting reamed out for all the bad things that they're doing. And as a human being, it's interesting how you still kind of have this empathy for someone who's just getting kicked to the ground. But when you really look at what happened here, of course, I don't feel bad for him, and neither does my brother, by the way. He wasn't trying to make an argument to feel bad for him. No, not at all. It was just an interesting topic of conversation to see, you hear someone just getting completely screwed out of everything in their life. But you know what? Here's the deal. The deal is that he created this for himself. This is what the end result was going to be. Whatever you want to call it. Judgment, karma, whatever it is. He's now paying for what happened. It's interesting because a lot of guys in high-powered professions get away with it. And they might go on for the rest of their life and never get in trouble for it and never get any kind of legal action against them. And now one person is, and it's causing a crazy stir in social media as well. Now women are doing what's called the MeToo campaign. So women are coming out on social media and saying Me Too and sharing their stories of sexual assault. It happens all the time. It's not just happening from big Hollywood producers. It's happening in dentist chairs. It's happening from bosses. It's happening from guys who were going up and approaching girls at a bar. Sexual assault is happening probably every single day. And a lot of women are too scared to come out with it because sometimes they feel guilty, oh, was it my fault that I led the guy on? So I kind of brought it to me. Or they're just scared to share it because they don't want to get someone in trouble and it's going to be a lot of drama in their life. A lot of women are scared to do that. And I just want to let it be known that obviously this is not something you should ever be doing to a woman, but you have to understand that a woman is never in trouble for something like this. This is never going to be on a woman's fault. Okay, maybe a woman shouldn't lead a man on, but that doesn't mean that she deserves to get sexually assaulted or do anything without her consent. So that's something you have to understand, is that consent is very important with any woman that you're with ever, whether it be on a sexual basis or even something that's as light as going in for a kiss. I know that sounds a little crazy, well, do you have to ask for a kiss? Well, no, you don't necessarily have to ask a girl for a kiss, but it's not something you should be doing if you're not at least getting the signs that she's interested in you. Would you go and run up to a random woman on the street and give her a kiss? No, you wouldn't, right? That's inappropriate. So the line needs to be drawn somewhere. And you just have to know how to be appropriate in these situations. And I ask you to tread carefully. I do have a lot of videos and I have some podcasts on how to touch girls, but you have to understand that this is very light, innocent touching, like on the arm or a high five or a handshake, things like that. Things to just get the flow going. And there's nothing wrong with those things, but it's just very important these days that you look for the signs and make sure that you're appropriate. It's very dangerous out there. It's very dangerous out there, not just for men, but for women too, for everybody. I don't want anyone being falsely accused. I don't want anyone to even be the assaulter. I don't want women to get assaulted. I don't want them to feel like they're being taken advantage of. I want everyone to tread carefully and really understand what they're doing and the consequences of their actions. So I don't know what your situation is and if you have power where you're at, if you're a boss somewhere, if you're in charge of a company somewhere, but just so you know, it's highly inappropriate to be doing anything sexual at all with one of your female employees unless the consent is 110% there, and it needs to be there no matter what. Okay, I'm just giving the example of if you're a person listening and you happen to be in a position of power, but it needs to be there even if you're dating someone. Okay, so please tread carefully, treat women with respect, and be respectful, because guys like Harvey Weinstein every day are taking advantage of women, and you really don't know what's happening to these women. I mean, you don't understand the destruction it causes emotionally for them. I mean, if any girl gets sexually assaulted or gets raped or touched inappropriately without consent, it could do a lot of damage to their mental and emotional health, right? They feel taken advantage of. They start to get very scared around men. It loses your credibility. Really, it's just putting men in a bad light. And I know it sounds unfair, like, oh well, she shouldn't put men in all that category. But do you blame her? It's kind of difficult when you hear all these stories and when you experience it yourself. So it's very dangerous to someone's emotional health to be doing that. And I'm not even one to be able to speak about that, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I do know for a fact that when women are sexually assaulted, it really messes them up, okay? And that should go without saying, but you should understand that. So I'm asking you to empathize with these women who are going through these really terrible situations where they're getting taken advantage of. I mean, it's hard maybe to understand that as a guy, because we think a little bit differently about sex, I mean, it's a little bit different for us, and we're, as guys, probably never going to be going through a period where we'll ever be sexually assaulted. It just doesn't happen to us. It's mostly the other way around. So I'm kind of asking you to put yourself in a woman's shoes, do the best you can here to really kind of understand why something like this can really be detrimental to someone, and think about it, right? Sex is a wonderful thing, and we're all having it, and so we don't want a skewed perspective on something that's so wonderful, and that's what it can do to a woman. So imagine that happening to you. Imagine that you having a really skewed perspective on something that should be about love, right? And something that should be really nice. But when a woman gets assaulted like that, it twists those ideas in her head. And we can't blame her because she's getting taken advantage of. So what can you do as a guy, now that you've heard about what's going on here? And this is, a lot of this is going to eventually fade, by the way. Right now, it's a hot topic. Women are coming out and talking about their recent assaults, and Harvey Weinstein's going to be in the news for quite a while because he's going to get in more and more trouble. And so we're going to be hearing about this for a while, but eventually it's going to go away, because that's just the way that news goes, right? That's the ebb and flow of news, and it's hot right now, but eventually it's going to die down. Eventually it's going to come back, though, because I heard that this is the MeToo campaign, is something that happened in 2007, so it's back now, and when we hear about another sexual assault, it'll probably be back again. But what can you do now? What can you do for the remainder of your lifetime? Well, one, please treat the women in your life with respect. Two, listen to these stories, hear them. I think that's a great way to empathize. You might not understand how it feels, but when you read the stories on Facebook or any blog posts or any other forms of social media or YouTube, just listen to them. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to apologize to them. You don't have to do anything like that, but you can listen and you can understand. And I think that the empathy in the understanding and the listening is going to help prevent it for every guy. I think if guys can really just get on that human to human level here, we can prevent it, one person at a time. That's kind of what I'm doing here with this podcast episode, because this is very important, because I teach this stuff. I teach the interactions between men and women, and I want them to go appropriately. Sometimes I say to women that really I'm working for them as much as I'm helping guys out. I'm trying to help women out too, because I'm trying to create a great guy who knows how to be an attractive man for a woman. I want women to find great men, and I want you as a great guy to find a great woman. So I feel it's my responsibility to talk about this and bring awareness into the situation. All right, so what else can you do? Well, I mean, you can talk to some of your girlfriends about the situation. Ask them how they feel about what's going on. Even ask them if they've been in a situation like that before. So you can hear it firsthand from someone you actually know, which is going to be very powerful. It might be very sad. Don't force them to tell you a story about it, but bring it up to people. Have the conversation. Get the awareness going. It's going to be very helpful. Next, I want you just to tread lightly. Right now, I know that men are not getting the greatest view in the news. I mean, not completely. I know people are being rational about it. They're not saying all men are bad, but they're not looking too great right now. So what can you do? Well, you can tread lightly and you can be an appropriate gentleman. Okay, that doesn't mean you don't have to go after what you want and be able to approach a woman and talk to her and work on the skills of attraction, stuff that I talk about in my Get Her Hooked program, right? Which is all responsible, appropriate ways of attracting a woman that are still actually very powerful. So, I just want you to be treading lightly, like I said, and moving forward with, meeting girls in the most appropriate manner possible. Use your common sense, use your intuition on what you feel is right and not right. But just remember, it's okay to still be able to go and talk to girls and ask them out and get them on dates, and that's okay. Don't be too scared where you're like, okay, all this stuff's in the media, now I can't ever talk to a girl I don't know. No, that's fine. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, but we just got to be careful here because it's a very sensitive situation, and we don't want to hurt women physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And I hope that, you take that into consideration, not just with women, but men and family members and friends and future girlfriends and future wives and all human beings. Okay, I know I sound very hippie-ish right now, but these are my values, and this is what I want to share with you, and I believe in them. I believe in treating everyone equally. I believe that everyone has a voice and everyone is important, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're of any religion or any race or sexual orientation. I just believe in the equality. And we're here on earth to be treating everyone with utmost respect, just like you want to be treated, right? Golden rule kind of stuff. Golden rule. All right, I'll get off my soapbox for now. I hope you learned something here. I hope this brings some awareness into what's going on in the news and why this is such bad stuff. I want guys to understand. I want you to understand this should not be taken lightly. This is serious, and there is something you can do about it. So just listen, just hear, empathize. And I'll talk to you on the next episode. Thanks.